Live from the virtual Pocono Raceway, we say good evening, sim racing fans, and welcome to week 14 of the 2021 SimSeats Real Sim Racing Cup Series on RaceSpot TV. And happy that you're with us from the tricky triangle as we get set for a very unique challenge as we get that much closer to the start of these 2021 playoffs. And we're happy that you're with us on a Monday night as always. Our producer Hugo Luis is downstairs with Nolan Rempel. My name is Evan Pasoko, and Nolan coming off of a trip to Nashville Super Speedway, which was a big question mark, right? A first-time trip. I think a very exciting race at the concrete intermediate racetrack. We go back to a familiar racetrack, but always one that is so unpredictable. Pocono up tonight for a little bit of a sprint race, 65 laps on tap this evening. With this package, the talk on the sim the last week and a half has been the draft, and this race could be thrilling. It could also get really messy.
Well, they don't call it the tricky triangle for nothing, Evan. It's going to be one heck of a race, that's for sure. I mean, you got all these drivers looking to prove their worth here. You got 3 different turns, all banked at different angles. You got different radiuses for all three corners. It is going to be absolutely insane watching the kind of racing we're no doubt in for tonight. We get closer and closer, though, to playoffs as we start to close in on that halfway point at Road America.
And of course, those road races, as mentioned over the last month, are going to be a big factor. We saw how that played out at Sonoma, at Coda with race wins for Matt Danson. Road America, another new challenge. Watkins Glen, the longest running of the road course tracks here on the RSR calendar, should be exciting moving forwards. Of course, I'm still looking forward to that one to cap off August, the regular season finale in Daytona. Going to be so exciting. But let's talk playoff picture as we come into this evening. No changes in the win column because Brandon Bowie's win was his second of the year. That leaves us still with 8 different race winners. Again, Daniel Eberhardt continues to be in a precarious position. He falls to 29th in the points. He needs to be top 25 for him to hang on to the number 8 spot moving forward. But as we look over to the right-hand side of your screen, and that is the question mark, right? Those are the drivers who can realistically fight their way in on points. I think Ross Cato in 14th position on down is where we're looking. Chris Rabel, Sam Nieto a little bit more comfortable, 40 to 50 points above the cut. But if I'm Kamer right now, I'm only 7 points ahead of McBride. I mean, that is still way too close for the amount of racing we still have left to go before the playoffs.
Oh, it absolutely is. There's a long way to go for these drivers as well. Doesn't mean, though, it's not going to be close. I mean, right behind Kyle Kamer, about 13 points back since Rhett McBride. My math is all over the place. That's actually only 7 points back, from Rhett McBride, and only 5 separate McBride from Leshinsky in the 20th position. So you've got yourself these drivers only 11 points out, and all 5 of them right on the bubble. And it's been that way all season long, and it goes to show how competitive this grouping really is. And honestly, that is going to be the one place to watch for, especially when we get closer and closer to that final regular season race at Daytona.
And again, I mentioned top 25 for Eberhardt. That means that drivers even lower than the names on your screen could have a chance to race themselves into the playoffs with a win. A Washington, a Grant Davis, an Eric Stanford, a Cody Harris. Those are all names 21st through 24th that I could realistically see winning one of the upcoming races. Certainly, Cody Harris is going to be a threat. He was so good at Coda. Has 2 more road course opportunities coming up a little bit later on this season. We are in the single car qualifying session, looking at a field of 33 drivers looking for the green flag this afternoon, which means that nobody will get bumped and be sent home through the knockout Q session. 2-lap single car runs. Brett McBride top of the board at the moment. See if he can hold that in the practice session. He was much lower down. Sam Nieto was the best earlier tonight in practice. He's the top 5 car. You see him in 5th at the moment, but I think McBride's going to be looking pretty here to start this one on pole. Don't think anyone's going to make a late charge in these 5-minute Q sessions. Typically, Nolan, these guys like to get those time lapse out of the way pretty quick, and then they'll go on to make some couple extra passes towards the end that aren't timed.
I mean, hey, why not get into a few extra laps when you have the practice to work with? You only have a 30-minute practice session. It's not the most amount of time in the world, especially when you look at other leagues that will have these 2-3-hour practice sessions leading up to qualifying. So only 30 minutes, it's not a long time to kind of get yourself organized. So the fact that these guys are all taking these extra laps under qualifying after the checkered flag, it's certainly not an uncommon sight, and it's honestly a pretty smart sight to see.
Yeah, just get a little bit extra in. Of course, track conditions going to change over the course of this race. However many laps that were put down in the practice session, that track state will carry over to today's main event. Of course, it is going to be different once you get everybody else there on track at the same time. And I mentioned how big the draft is going to be. I mentioned that's been the story for quite some time. You'll know, of course, last week was the eNASCAR Coca-Cola race here at Pocono, and we saw tons of drafts. I mean, Pocono's always been a track known to where we've drafted, right? See how wide that front straightaway is and how long that run is down to turn one. We've always seen crazy restarts here at Pocono, but certainly with this low horsepower, high downforce package, that is exaggerated that much more. Drivers also talked about how much of a momentum-based race this is going to be with how long the straightaways are. If you miss the exit or even the entry for that matter, which will hurt your exit, on any of the three corners here around Pocono, that it's going to take you a lap and a half to recover from that.
Oh, it absolutely will. It's definitely something where you have to make sure you hit those marks precisely. I would say turn 2 is probably one of the most critical corners. It is known as the tunnel turn. It's almost impossible to go side by side through there, at least when you're battling competitively, especially if you're trying to complete a pass around the inside.
Final seconds ticking away until we go racing for this one. Let's go down trackside now and take a look at your SimSeats starting grid for round number 14 here in 2021. So Red McBride for Steel Horse Racing hangs on for pole. His 53.884 good enough. Best of all, he will be joined by last week's winner at Nashville, Brandon Bowie, on the outside of row number 1. Kyle Trudell, Andrew Ferdinand will double up for 3rd and 4th alongside that Sam Nieto and Bradley Burke, the top 6.
In 7th place, holds Matt Danson, a driver who we have seen very, very good on the road courses, has not been quite able to put something together in the ovals. However, with him being only about a 10th and a half back for Rhett McBride, the potential is certainly there for him to come away with a win tonight. Sean Castell is beside him on row number 4. Nick Silver and Thomas George round out the top 10, with Michael Araya and Chris Rabel on row number 6.
Continuing on through, Jeremy Miller, Joseph Tice going to double up to be joined by Eric de Blasio and Daniel Eberhardt on row number 8. Eric Stanford starts from 17th position tonight. Grant Davis at 18th.
And in the 19th position, Ross Cato bringing it up with Marius Lischinski rounding out the top 20. Nicholas Mara sits in 21st with Matthew Mara in 22nd. So the Mara brothers down there on row number 11. Adam de Blasio is going to be in 23rd place with Brian Chambliss at 24th. Jared Wymas at 25th with Tom Moreno in 26th.
You got Michael Kaczynski, Sean Kalis, Agnell, Phillip, and Dylan Jones through the top 30. Phillip and Jones do not take a time at qualifying, nor does William Schmidt, David Washington, or Steve Durham. All those drivers opting not to take a time in the qualifying session. Also, Liam Sheen loaded in, but I do not believe that he is going to be on the starting grid for this race. So that's why I think the magic number is going to be 33. For tonight's SimSeats 163. If 163 sounds like a short race, that's because it is. All of these races, half the length of a NASCAR Cup Series race. Of course, NASCAR running a double-header race weekend here at Pocono means that both of their races were shorter to accommodate that. Sticking with that 50% margin, we are running half that race, so this will be one of the shorter mileage oval races of the year, if not the very shortest. It is Pocono. It is a long 2.5 mile speedway. It's going to take close to a minute for these drivers to get around here. Caution's good at on top of that. Still a long night at the office, so not that much of a sprint here on deck for this evening's race. The pace car going to dive in this time. As always, we're happy that you're spending your Monday evening with us here on RaceSpot TV. The field into the hands of Rhett McBride for the 14th race of 2021. This is the SimSeats 163 as we say, let's go racing at Pocono. Big high-speed run into turns 1 and 2, but it is Burke on the inside, sideways now, as he tried to challenge Ferdinand 3 wide behind.
They were up to 4 wide all the way down that pit straightaway there. Of course, that section of the track about 5 lanes wide, 6 if you count the checkered stripes right down by the pit wall. Still 3 wide down to the turn in the midfield, and poor Jeremy Miller getting shuffled out way through the middle, and he's going to filter into the bottom side just in behind. I believe that is Nick Silver that he's sliding just behind. So the top few single filed out. One car way up the hill in turn 3. That's San Diego getting out of shape.
A couple of drivers struggling on a apparent slick Pocono Raceway on the opening lap of this race as they fan out down the front straightaway. Drivers trying to protect, block. That's Eberhardt way to the inside. Now back up in front of traffic as they make the run back off to turn number 1 there. Sam Nieto's number 2 machine into the mix as well as we ride on board with Michael Araya way up on the outside looking for some grip down the Long Pond straightaway.
Araya certainly has found some speed in that number 44 car, getting a huge run here on Ross Cato's number 12 down from turn number 2. Can he complete this pass around the outside, trying to pick up another position within the top 15? Does not look like he's going to be able to, though. That 44 car is going to be trying to maybe have another go into 3, but of course turn 3, it's a lot much more flatter corner compared to turns 1 and 2, which makes it so much more difficult to try to complete a pass at this run.
On board look with Cato, bottom right corner of your screen. You mentioned the different corners. This track was designed by 1959 and 1962 Indianapolis 500 champion Roger Ward. And the uniqueness is not just the fact that it's only 3 corners, it's that those 3 corners are designed after 3 different racetracks. Right here, turn number 1, the most banked of them all, 14 degrees of banking, modeled after Trenton Speedway. You go down the Long Pond straightaway into what's known as the tunnel turn. Turn number 2, an 8-degree banked corner, similar to that at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. You can see the similarities. Everybody gets down onto the inside, and it's about a 90-degree kink. Not a short shoot like Indy, though. A little bit of a longer run now down to turn number 3, the least banked and widest of them all, the 6-degree banked corner number 3, modeled after the famous Milwaukee Mile. That's a lap around Pocono.
Tell you what, I definitely love the fact that all of these corners have a different characteristic about them. You cannot approach any 2 corners the same at Pocono, and it gives the track a whole lot of character to it. It makes it a fan favorite for a lot of drivers, and no doubt a lot of spectators as well that come on out to watch the race year after year. Remember the Pocono 500 being a fairly popular event when that was a thing. NASCAR still regularly has very full grandstands whenever they make an appearance.
A fun racetrack. I was able to drive by it once. Of course, it was not a race weekend, but still fun to be in the area and check it out. And certainly one of those racetracks, as evidenced by the past weekend. I think NASCAR's really done a lot of good stuff with the double header and having the truck race before the Cup race on Saturday, the Xfinity race before the Cup race, I believe, on Sunday as well, and great turnout and good stuff. Fun racetrack, and I think that sprint-style racing, inverting the top 20, a lot of fun stuff that NASCAR is getting creative with on their calendar and allowing such a good racetrack like Pocono to maintain its spot in the rotation. There is Eberhardt. I was talking about him making some of those big aggressive moves way to the inside, way back up to the outside. Well, currently side by side with Chris Rabel in a battle up at turn number 2.
Just gets such a much better run up a turn number 1. Down for 2, though. Joseph Tice is giving the bumper here to Eberhardt, giving him a little bit more of a nudge down into the tunnel turn. So the 90 car is going to be able to hold strong at the other side. Oh, clips the apron, though, starts to push a little bit wide. That gives the run to Joseph Tice and to Chris Rabel. That is the one thing, Evan, that you never want to do around any corner of this track, but turn 2 especially. Surprised that he didn't send that car slamming into the wall.
It is very small margins, and we talk about all that momentum. It's very easy in the wake of somebody else when you're trying to get that run off of the corner to put that thing into the outside wall on corner exit. The off-throttle time as they get down off and into this corner, for Eberhardt at least, as you look off of the back of Silver to him, Eberhardt topped off at 194 miles an hour. He got as low as 147. You don't really see that a lot, Jonathan, with this package, right? This is the package that keeps these cars within about a 10-mile-an-hour range on a lot of the intermediate tracks, but it's fun that this racetrack you have That speed difference, highest to lowest speed, and I think is what makes good racing, is off throttle time and having to drive a race car around. Looked like Silver thought about going to the inside for a move, looking further up. Brandon Bowie continuing to lead this race, but Andrew Frenage, who made that early move to second, is sticking with him. Look at the traffic back here now. Daniel Eberhardt going to give a push to the 5 of Joseph Tice, and that will allow both of them to clear that number 3 in Nick Silver.
Nick Silver is going to tuck in a line right against that outside wall, trying to make sure they really arc it in down for turn number 1. Such a crucial turning point, and one that, frankly, I am never able to get right. I always love watching races at this track. Never so much participated in them. Look at the run for Bradley Burke and Sean Castell getting the good run around Paulson, Rhett McBride down to the turn 2. Burke not quite able to get clear, though. Gets it off of 2, but that has put a long gap between himself and Sean Castell, his drafting partner.
That swipe at the bumper there and losing a lot of momentum through the corner as that 5 machine is he'll now try to speed back up off of turn number 3, and the race leader is getting a little bit of separation from the field as a whole, but amongst the race leaders, looks like your top 13 still pretty tight. Bowie at the lead of the group, and Matt Danson the caboose on this lead breakaway, as that's the number 2 machine of Sam Nieto making a pass on the 90 of Eberhardt. Eberhardt was 9th at the stripe, but he'll be 12th by the time we get down to the tunnel turn.
So you got first on back 13th, all in this leading train, and that is due in part to the fact that these guys singled it out very quickly. We're able to utilize the trap and gun for the race lead. 14th on back, they've all been battling each other pretty hard throughout the most part of this race. They've pretty much single filed out themselves, but they cost themselves way too much time fighting each other, and now they're just trying to see if they can maybe catch back up, maybe salvage something here. You know, early race cautions, they are definitely not an uncommon occurrence here at Pocono Raceway, but it's looking like that will not be the trend here today.
We'll see how this one shakes out. Certainly a promising start. I talk about the race distance, mileage-wise. Absolutely, it's a sprint. As you see that 9 of George way up top, 15 to Bashida McBride. Not going to be able to clear him, though, so these two will race back down to turn number 2. If it goes green all the way, and it will be one of the shorter races of the season. It's those infamous Pocono yellows that add things up. But you know, I said this race could be great or it could get messy, Jonathan. That's not just my opinion, right? That's straight from the horse's mouth. A lot of drivers had expressed concerns on getting green flag runs in this race and how well the etiquette would be. It's been pretty good so far to this point. As you can see the 03 machine up on the outside. This is that second group a little bit off of the leaders.
So take a look at some of the various different trains going on, and that is a great head-on shot on the left side. That really shows the distance between Jeremy Miller and Matt Danson. And I tell you what, I mean, they are so much time between them. This front pack has broken away. They're a second and a half up from Jeremy Miller's 27 right behind. These guys in the front, they're staying single file. They are working together. Now, when we talk about the draft playing a big role in a place like this, it's definitely not nearly as important as it is at a track like Daytona or Talladega. But that's not to say it doesn't play a role at all. It still plays a pretty huge factor to how these races can play out.
A lot of side-by-side action off and into number 3. That 15 to Bashida McBride continuing to try to get around Joseph Tice. Finally, ain't going to get the job done this time through. And just as they say that, Tice fights back on the outside. Bowie has remained uncontested. Of course, you're never going to not know the running order. Top 16 always on the left-hand side of your screen. He has led all the way as there's a bit of a bobble for Nick Silver. See that 90 car of Eberhardt can capitalize. He'll slice to the outside and put a move on the 3. He'll take away 10th spot.
Trying to go for 10th, and now side by side behind with Nieto and Silver going at it. Silver is going to go up into 11th. That bumps Silver down to 12th. Side by side on the exit of the tunnel turn. Rhett McBride trying to continue to work his way up, but he doesn't have any speed behind him. He has nobody to help him there on the bottom side. In fact, here comes Nieto trying to take another spot away. Oh, it gets chopped off by Daniel Eberhardt. Joseph Tice trying to find his way to the ring as well. I tell you what, Rhett McBride, he started to drive a little bit impatiently here. He was the pole sitter today, and he has not been up there since lap number 1. And that was, of course, because Brandon Bowie went a little bit earlier than he did and ended up taking the race lead away in the run down to turn number 1. I think McBride here is getting a little antsy, trying to make up lost ground. He still has, though. 50 left to do it, and caution flag is out. And it looks like we have had a car into the inside wall. Ross Cato is the cause of caution, and there we see it with Matthew Barr on exit of the tunnel turn.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. There was a little bit of radio discussion earlier in the race as well, where Mara was involved in an incident. I think that's where his initial damage comes from. Let's watch this run down to 1 and look out for the 12 on the straightaway. No surprise that you're going to have drivers making some blocks, if you will, Nolan. I mean, we've known that's going to be a thing. It looked like Cato was slow off the corner, and then I think the 21 just misjudged it and hooked him.
That's exactly what happened. Adam de Blasio tried to pull alongside and get a bit of side draft going, and he's just way too close. He was still in the lane. I mean, Cato never moved down. I'll give Cato that one. He held his ground. He never moved an inch to put a foot wrong. I have to say, I think the 21 might have to take the blame for this one. It's a case of, you try to go for the side drive, get the guys up top to lose a bit of speed, maybe get a run going on the bottom side. It's a lot easier to do at this track in particular. Unfortunately, it just played out all sorts of wrong. Good news is, though, that did happen further towards the back and way down the track, so nobody else got involved in it.
So far, no claims. Drivers have a little bit of time to think it over. In fact, at Pocono, they have a lot of time to think it over under the yellows that we were alluding to. It'll give us tons of time to talk points and schedule and all of that. But, we talked about the concept of claiming. Should note that based on incident points and penalty points, which are handed out on a per incident basis, if you cause the yellow and claim it, it's only 1 point against you. If you don't claim it, and race control has to give it to you post-race, it's 2, and it's double for each ensuing one. Trey Browning is sitting out this race. He had 2 unclaimed caused cautions at Nashville. He ended up with 11 total penalty points after that race. The limit is 7. So Trey is parked for a week. He'll come back next week and reset, I believe, to 4 penalty points. So that is your encouragement to keep things clean. But 4 sets of tires is a lot, Nolan, for a 65-lap race. Die a quarter distance, but I would have to think people are going to come down and take them. A little bit of a late commitment by Bowie, but he gets down anyways, and it looks like most of your race leaders, if not all, down for service.
And I'm honestly not very surprised by this, because while 4 sets of tires is a lot at a track like this, it is still so critical to get the tires. You could be a second plus a lap faster on fresher tires, even if they're just about 10, 11 laps faster or newer than the guys that you're trying to race with. I mean, it is so critical to utilize the fresh rubber when you have the chance to do so. You're otherwise going to lose so much time out there on the track. Not quite a lap, but pretty close to it. So take a look at some of the drivers around. I am noticing Michael Kuczynski took the very bold strategy and stayed out in the number 30 car. Meanwhile, it is going to be Brandon Bowie to lead the field off of pit road.
And gains for Sean Casto, who goes 15 seconds flat in the box and leapfrogs Andrew Farinaj. Everybody who came down pit road going with 4 tires. Quickest pit stop belongs to Sam Nieto, 13.7 seconds back in traffic. Slowest pit stop belonging to Jeremy Miller, 15.6 seconds in the box. But you're right, you see the plus minuses. There's a lot there in the top 10. That's all from passing under the green flag. The big change, of course, is Kuczynski, who started this race in 27th. At the time of the caution flag, just a handful of laps ago, he was running in 29th, so he didn't have a ton cooking for him, Nolan. He is the lone driver to stay out. I would have to assume he's going to get eaten alive on tires, but if you're running 29th out of 33 cars, his philosophy must be, why not shake it up a little bit?
I'm honestly very curious about this. I mean, if you're seeing every single driver on the lead lap, and in the field, as a matter of fact, as everybody was still on the lead lap, coming down for service, why would you not do the same? The only explanation that I can think of why he's doing this, he's hoping that there's going to be a couple more restart cautions to help him the field kind of wearing their tires a bit behind, and he won't have to worry about it so much about being swarmed. Either that, or he's banking on there being more cautions later in the race, giving him opportunity to get on fresh tires a little bit more than some of the other guys will be able to.
Lights out on top of the iRacing pace car, so we will get set for a restart that'll have 50 laps to go here from the Pocono Mountains. Of course, Kaczynski looking for a Hail Mary, if you will, to try to shake things up in terms of the championship standings. He's only started 10 of the 13 races thus far, comes into this evening 43rd in the points, even if Mike could steal a checkered flag for the XPM gang, one of the good guests as of late on the After the Turns podcast. Would be hard-pressed to make a spot into the postseason based upon that. However, good to see XPM running well. We talked about the team standings. They sit third in the team championship standings, so it's a little bit of team representation there. Interesting to see what the 30 is going to do here. I don't know, is he going to be a roadblock? I mean, Nolan, the good news is this racetrack's wide enough that I don't think drivers are going to have an issue getting around him. I just wonder how patient they'll be and if he even still has the lead by the time they get to turn one.
I mean, if he intended letting the field through, he most likely would have taken the outside lane. So that tells me he's probably either going to pull this one off to the left if he wants to let the ball through, or is going to really fight this one out. And I'm willing to bet he's probably going to fight this one out. Of course, he's the driver looking to put on a show today. He's the only driver out of Pennsylvania coming into today's race. So the homeboy definitely is trying to see if he can maybe put on the show for us.
But he's got pace car going to be off and in this time. He is the control car, so he does have quite the range in when he wants to dictate the restart of this race. Pace speed off the corner at 70 miles per hour. Pace car looking for pit road. Kaczynski gets right up at a bumper and goes right away. We're back underway. 50 laps to go, and it is a good jump for the 30.
Great launch indeed, and Brandon Bowie caught napping on the start. Unlike the initial race start where he actually got the drop on your pole sitter, definitely is not the case today. Now the question is, how bad will these tires be affecting Kaczynski? About to find out for one, and look at Brandon Bowie. All the speed of the world around the outside. It's a 3 wide off of turn number 1, fanning out behind. Michael Kaczynski is under fire, and he is going to be dropping back in a hurry.
Burke pushing the 52 machine to the tunnel turn. Nobody wants to be 3 wide. Most drivers don't want to be 2 wide here in the tunnel turn. Kaczynski tries to stay down to the inside. There's nowhere for Trudell to go, though, and it's allowing the outside to make moves. Burke through, Rabel through, Eberhardt's number 90 trying to get through as well, and Kyle Trudell still can't get by. Now he'll force his way to the inside. 3 wide off of turn 3.
Oh, it's a Hornets. That's the cars right behind him. Everybody's being caught out trying to get around this on board with Danson as he's going to go 3 wide to get around. Even the straight line speed isn't there for Kaczynski. Getting swung left and right, nearly banging doors with Matt Danson for turn number 1. Now he has got Loride trying to go around the outside. Here comes the Anno, and Kaczynski by the inside line. Michael Kaczynski throwing his hat into the ring. Excuse me, Jerry Wymas are throwing his hat into the ring, trying to push it almost 4 wide to get around Kaczynski.
Just moved him out of the way. He needs to be thankful that Eric de Blasio cut him a break. De Blasio could have finished off Kaczynski, lifted for him at his own expense, because it ends up costing 11 positions. So the gamble not working out for Kaczynski. He'll end up probably lower than 29th in the 32-car field on the racetrack right now after this call, just way off the pace. So that'll be a note to drivers. 12-lap difference, yeah, pretty noticeable in the Pocono race. So that may steer some drivers away from making the call a little bit later on. Almost 4 wide on the front straightaway. Is that Danson throwing blocks at the very inside? Even further back is where you see that 3 wide, still off and into the corner. It's David Washington on the bottom. Chambliss middle. The 98 slides up a little bit, not quite clear, inches apart.
And Nick Silver is forced back out of the 3-car as a result of that one. Now going to be passed up by Tom Moreno. Nicholas Barr trying to have a run at David Washington. Washington's covering the bottom. Moreno, he's actually going to try to do this one. Nicholas Barr trying to go 3 wide to the tunnel turn. Definitely not the smartest thing you'd want to do. Silver's going to give the help to Nicholas Barr. Down at 3 wide still for turn number 3. Barr cannot send it in good enough, though. David Washington looks like he'll come out on top in this battle.
This is for 24th position on back, 25th on back. And you wouldn't know they are racing like it's a battle for the race lead. Moreno will win out in this exchange for the time being, give him 27th spot, even further down the running order. And Washington will reset. Washington, one of the drivers on probation from some earlier incidents in the year, needs to be careful in a couple of these close tight battles. Back towards the foot of the field, though, Brandon Bowie, who was able to get by Kaczynski first, maintains the race lead now. Of course, his streak of leading all the laps was broken there under that caution flag period. Remember, Sean Castro did better than Frinage, leapfrogged him off the pit road. Frinage has since got that spot back and right back where we were.
Wrecking behind, Kyle Trudell just got up and into the air. Winemaster has to scramble. Kyle Trudell somehow survives it, but it was big contact with Eric Stanford and Trudell door to door that caused that 7 car to get airborne and nearly wipe out Jeremy Miller as well.
His 7 car took a shot and it lifted the right front tire up off the ground, but it was a fantastic save by the 7 as Winemaster and Miller swerved down to the inside to avoid him, to hang on to that race car and avoid a yellow flag. So no incident. We stay green. Here's the second look. There's the shot. There's the bobble. Gathered up quite quickly. Good piece of driving for the 7. I would be concerned, though, that kind of cosmetic and body damage is going to hurt you at a racetrack as aerodynamic dependent as this, but he's got a chance to fix it. Caution in the rear. Matthew Mara is involved with Michael Kaczynski. We will slow them down. Lap number 20, and it looks like it was the other Mara where this incident originated from. Is it looks like an attempted pass on Kaczynski. Let's see.
Wow. That is a sight to say the very least. Nicholas Mara just runs through Mike Kaczynski. Kaczynski was trying to stay wide, and you saw Nicholas Mara kind of get launched airborne as a result of that. Matthew Mara with nowhere to go, caught up in both cautions now on the day. Also involved, Ross Cato, who has damage after being the cause of the first caution. Somehow, Tom Moreno squeaks through without too much damage, but I'm not quite sure what to say to that one. That's the ride on board with Matthew Mara, showing he just had nowhere to go, but I don't know. That's a tough one to call.
Yeah, just and Nick Mara apologized over the radio and said he just really didn't know what the 30 car was doing. In that tunnel turn, we talk about momentum. I think simply, Nolan, it was he had already committed to the corner, got back on the throttle, and was just hoping that he could give it a little bit more crank and not go through him, right? The alternative is you lift and you butcher a lap and a half, and just didn't want to do that. Thought he could get on through, wasn't able to, and drives through him. And he'll claim responsibility for the incident. So Nicholas Mara will take the end of the longest line penalty. And we have our second yellow in the opening 1/3 of this SimSeats 163.
And we're likely going to have a first retirement as well. I'm watching Matthew Mara at the moment. He is currently up in smoke trying to catch the tail end of the pacing line. And it's going to be a rough run for that 23 car to try to recover from that. And of course, it's very long to get the repairs fixed to get a whole new motor into the car. Making a late dive out of pit road is Jimmy Miller. Looked like he was going to go in, came out at one of the last possible seconds. Kyle Trudell does go in, likely to fix his own damage from his own piece of contact on the front straightaway. Mariusz Leszczynski also in from 10th.
So a bit of a split decision. This run significantly shorter than that of the first run. First run of the race, drivers were able to, get the tires. The 12-lap difference is pretty noticeable. This time it was closer to a 4 or 5-lap run. Just interested that the guys towards the rear, if you're going with 4, I don't know if I'd want to burn half of my sets of tires 22 laps into a 65-lap race, unless they're hoping that, of course, if this is a green flag run, then that would certainly be to their benefit.
I absolutely would, but I don't know. I mean, at this point in time, it's very hard to see how that's going to play out. I mean, the longest run we've had so far this race has been about 12, 13 laps, give or take. So we're on lap 22 now and still got a third of the race to go. So it's a very tough call to make. And more drivers than not did decide to stay out. It looks as though it'll be about a 20th, 23rd place on up.
See if we can dial up the driver of the number 34 machine, Brandon Bowie at 7. Pocono, Nolan Rempel up in the booth. You get a copy? I'm trying to get our current race leader on the radio under the caution flag. Brandon, we can't hear you. Do you got us? Good to know, Nolan, that we're doing our best TV impression, right? Where they try to dial up the driver and then the radio doesn't work. Doing everything we can to be as true to life as possible. And thanks to Brandon for letting us dial him up. We'll give him a second here and give him one final opportunity. Brandon, you got a copy by chance? Well, we'll save that interview for the next caution flag. That was my attempt at filling time under the yellow Nolan. I wasn't able to do it, so you can fill for the next lap.
I mean, to be fair, you did manage to fill for about the last lap or so, just trying to dial him up, so I'll give you that much.
Yeah, not the way I planned on it, but it gave us some content.
Yeah, that it did. So, 1 to green here. We lead. Looking at the biggest movers and shakers so far this race, Winemaster up 13, and likely would have been less for Winemaster had it not avoided Kyle Trudell's minor incident down on the front straightaway a few laps ago. David Washington's also tied with him for plus 13. He's in 18th place at the moment. Unfortunately, the biggest driver down, well, that'd be Kyle Trudell, no doubt, as a result of that prior incident down on the front straightaway. So, it's so unfortunate to see, you know, some of the guys having struggles this early on. I mean, you also take a look at guys like Agno Phillip, who didn't even go and start this race despite having been registered for it. Sometimes it just plays out that way, though. You just end up having things come on up and you aren't able to participate. I mean, Phillip set a practice lap, 53.974, but was not able to make it in for qualifying.
I wasn't able to do so, and you know, we've seen a lot of the time some drivers choose not to qualify. Dylan Jones, one of those guys, but clearly the lack of qualifying has been hurting drivers tonight. Haven't really seen anybody just blitz their way through the field to this point in the race. So we'll see how this changes. This restart is going to come just past 1/3 distance. It'll be 23 laps down, 42 laps to go. With Bowie, Friedage on the front row, Casta George Rail at the top 5, Eberhardt, Burke, McBride, Tice, Stanford, the rest of your top 10. Pace car down and in, another early jump as the Keep It Real duo coordinated on the inside. Casto pushes Bowie to turn 1.
Andrew Friedage, 4-time winner of the season, goes nowhere. He is side by side with Chris Rabel for the final podium position. He's got Thomas George behind him, but it's not going to do a whole lot of good. Brandon Bowie now, well, it looks like maybe the teamwork didn't last so long. Sean Cass kind of poked his nose out, looking for the inside to the middle of turns 1 and 2. Now, Bowie goes defensive, starting the IndyCar snake down the long pond, straight in the run-up towards turn number 2. Bowie, for now, holds that race lead.
Yeah, they worked together on the start. You could tell that they timed that one. It allowed Casto to get the jump, push Bowie. They cleared Friedage, but by the time they got to 2, they were no longer working together, and Casto was looking to take over the top spot in the race. This time, a little bit more conservative off into the corner as your race leader single file out. You take a look back inside the top 5. Some side-by-side, Thomas George trying to wrestle against the Donnie Daniel Eberhardt.
Of course, Thomas George having the advantage with the draft in the long run down towards turn number 1. You can see up front the top 3, Brandon Bowie, Sean Castle, Andrew Friedage, all already with a big gap over 4th place. That won't last for long, though. Now, Friedage trying to go for 2nd place, trying to poke around Sean Castle, the 52 car, but down this straightaway, Castle still has that draft for Brandon Bowie, so I don't think Friedage will be able to get it done.
Single filed out the quickest on this restart of any we had seen thus far. But again, just haven't seen much separation. Here we go now, 3 wide down to turn 3. It's Winemaster in the middle. And looks like they'll be all right. Dancing in that picture as well. A handful of other drivers in the battle. Oh, and there's going to be contact. Dancing comes down, touches de Blasio, and de Blasio is going to run up against the inside fence. He saved it, but that got ugly.
And unfortunately, Eric de Blasio's damage on the left side, so he did actually manage to hit that. Now, I think what Matt Danson was doing, it looked like Marius Leschinski in the 03 car actually clipped the wall just off of turn number 3. That caused him to get loose. Danson could not check out what time, so he goes to the inside, not realizing de Blasio was already there. But good job with all these drivers to hold it. You can already see the 03 is slow, and there's the contact.
Yeah, Danson said that it was netcode, but it looked like a good old hip check to me. Just didn't see that he was there. I thought he had a little bit more space and just cut down on him. And de Blasio, lucky to still be in this race. But again, that damage could hurt as this race goes on. You need that aero sensitivity at a track like this. Now picking up the battle for what has turned into fourth, because Freitas has trickled down from the number 3 spot, just got passed up by George. Hold that thought. Caution towards the rear. A handful of cars around, including de Blasio and Sam Nieto. It is messy down in turn 1.
And Nieto and de Blasio, Adam de Blasio, that is, they were so far apart coming into the corner. So how has this come about? That's an interesting one for me. We're talking about a quarter, third, and second gap. So unless, oh, there was a stack up in front, and Adam de Blasio, there you see it, just gets run over by Sam Nieto. Oh, the 49 gives a hard shot to Nieto's door. And that was all the result of Adam de Blasio having to check up for a big stack-up effect just up in front of it, which looks like it might have been started off, actually, by Jeremy, check that, Rhett McBride.
Yeah, it all checked up. Started with McBride, maybe even Stanford, and then Tice checked up, Lariah checked up, de Blasio checked up, and when de Blasio got on the brakes, he got a little bit sideways, and you can see from the overhead there, Nieto just closes in too quick, gives him a touch, they spin, and then it was a late hit for William Schmidt, who gets involved in that incident. More cars compiling in. Danson gets a touch to Dylan Jones, who nearly spins out but catches the race car, and that is why it was messy. But pit stops underway for some of the cars. There's that overhead look. You just see the check, and that 21 was sideways even before the touch. But the cars on pit road, all the cars from this incident, from the damage, and in fact, Nieto, I think Nolan looped it coming onto pit road. See what your race leaders do. Remember, it was a split decision last time on pit strategy. Everybody came in the first time. Second caution flag that only a handful did. We're closer to halfway. These drivers are out there on 14-lap older tires. Granted, maybe a third of that's caution flag laps, but not be surprised if the leaders come in.
We're now at the time where we're starting to get closer to the halfway point, so it's getting safer and safer to be able to use that second set of tires. Of course, these drivers do have 4, so if they come in now, they would have to ration these tires out. I'd say about 1 every 15, 20 laps or so, and you're going to be good to go to the end of the race from there if you just follow that strategy. It's a pretty cut and dry, which is honestly why some of these lower lap counts actually kind of help things out. It makes it a lot easier to try to factor in how you want to set these tires up, and sure enough, most of the race leaders coming in. I've seen a few drivers elect to stay out. Of course, a lot of those drivers staying out, they already came in 7 laps ago.
So here is your rush to pit road. Liszczynski, Trudell, Durham, and Kalis, the drivers who stay out. I would assume if you're on pit road, the decision is going to be for 4. So drivers most likely burning their third or second set of 4 on the evening. Looks like most of the cars who pitted previously staying out. So Jones, Chainless, and some others staying out. Up at the front of the field, they're going to drive through pit road, and Brandon DeBue's got some competition. He will be beat off of pit road by Nick Silver. His teammate makes the leapfrog and will be the first car out with a 2-tire decision. Just said that I would take 4. I think if you're down pit road, it was only 2 for the 3 car.
In fact, it wasn't even Nick Silva to get the run out of pit road. It was actually Dylan Jones that got the run out of pit road, and I believe Brian Chambers as well. But both those drivers, of course, they took fuel only on their stops, which is going to make that a very interesting run. So you've got a lot of guys up in the front now. We're talking about the top 6, top 4 rows here that are on older tires. Now, they're not very old. They're only 7 laps older, but we've seen that in the past. That is still enough to make quite a difference.
Most diverse we've seen pit strategy wise so far tonight. The time of the yellows is allowing some drivers to mix things up. I still think the call is always going to be to go for the 4. However, you do have the chance that, you know, if you could have a caution in 10 laps, you take tires, another one in 10 laps, you take your tires, and you know that then you're done. What do you do if there's another restart? 10 to go, 5 to go, something like that. So that is the advantage maybe for somebody like a Silver, because I think he's going to lose out on this speed wise. Don't think he'll drop down quite as bad as Kaczynski did, but will still be at a disadvantage on the 2 tires. He of course can take 2 more trips down pit road at 4, and then maybe for a late race save, you know, go for the two lefts if you want something to mix it up. But no drivers claiming that incident. Not a shock on that one. Here's the replay with the Yetta, by the way. I mentioned he spun on pit road all on his own. Didn't hit anything, but maybe just a bruised ego on that one. Yeah, we saw it.
Lock the tires up. Just that's the unfortunate thing about coming to the pit road, especially when you're going in so quickly here. You just locked up the front tires, and the back end just comes around on you from there as soon as you let off. And we see this happen actually very commonly at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, one of the tracks this place is actually modeled off of. And it's a thing that we've seen in the past, not even just at this facility, but also in the real world. I believe we've even had a couple of incidents in IndyCar that have made the same mistake coming into places like Indianapolis and a Pocono here.
Just looking through the running order, I mentioned 33 drivers started this race. I believe Nicholas Mara's night is done. He is the only retiree thus far. Matthew Barra did leave, but they may be pushing that car back out from behind the wall. So at the moment, 31 cars still on track. 28 of them scored on the lead lap. So here we go. Familiar situation with some cars and old tires. Up at the front of the field, these 4 drivers on the front 2 rows, all pitted, not this yellow, obviously, but the previous yellow, when most of your race leaders opted not to. So Leszczynski and Trudell on the front row, Durham and Kalis 3-4. Dylan Jones up into the mix as well off of the pit lane ahead of Chambliss. Silver, 2 tires in that trio. Pace car off it in. Green flag back in the air. 35 laps to go. Touching for second as Durham makes a dive on the inside.
Steve Durham not wasted any time, 3 wide, just behind these guys as well. Kyle Trudell trying to fend them off around the outside line for second place. Trudell have nothing doing though. Heads up though, Durham watches a little bit wide. Kyle Trudell gets a great drive up from turn 1 onto the long pond straight and is able to get a great run here onto Mariusz Leszczynski. Can he get the run that he needs to go for the position? No, he cannot. Oh, doors the wall a little bit there right when he tagged the back end of your current race leader of Leszczynski. Dylan C. Jones goes down the inside as well with the run of these guys. Now here goes Kyle Trudell going for the race lead.
Makes the dive to the inside. Trudell has got it. Give it to the driver of the 7 car on that pit cycle. Trudell opted, remember, not to come in. He's on that set of drivers with new but not the oldest of tires. And he's able to make the pass against Leszczynski. The 036 with him, though. Kalis not that far back in third. Looking to the bottom for P2. He finally commits. Leszczynski gives him the room. Nobody seemingly wants it. Now they're side by side. Down to 2. Another caution flag. And again, it comes from behind as Davis may be involved and maybe Ross Cato.
Jaron Weimaster and Rhett McBride appeared to be the primary cause of this one, although a lot of drivers had to really scramble to avoid this. Ross Cato did a 4-tire lockup trying to get around it. It was a good save, admittedly, from Rhett McBride. We'll take a look at the here. This is coming through turn number 1. Bit of a tap behind. Weimaster gets shoved. Oh, maybe not. That might just be on Weimaster. He did have some contact with one of those drivers behind him to turn Rhett McBride. I believe that was Grant Davis, but I'm having a tough time. Oh, I found it here. The main thing started with Eric de Blasio. Get a huge shot to the back of Grant Davis. That pushes him up into Jaron Weimaster, who might just be able to make that as an excuse as to why he turned Rhett McBride.
Yeah, it was like a quadruple boink. I mean, there was one touch it again. It's turn number 1. Where these drivers seemingly can't give each other a little bit of room. I think it goes all the way back and had started with Eric de Blasio. He's the one who just drove in the deepest. Watch this onboard. He's going to be the one that comes from 2-3 car lengths back. But, I mean, just seemingly way on the gas too late, and that's what causes it, is it pushes him into Davis into Weimaster, but evidently Weimaster into the 15.
Yeah, I don't really blame these guys for being really aggressive coming down to turn number 1. While you have a lot of these different turns, turn 1 is the best pass opportunity there is on the track. It has the longest straightaway leading up to it, and that is the primary reason. It is also one of those turns that you brake for. Of course, it is not the slowest corner on the track. That comes down to turn 3. But the long draft run that leads up to turn one, that is what makes it one of the best places where you could go for an overtake here on this racing facility. And that's why we're seeing a lot of these guys being a lot more aggressive in the run down to these corners. We're seeing guys trying to side draft like you do at super speedways. You're seeing people utilize the draft, bump drafting. It's one of those corners that you have to do everything you can to both go for a position and try to potentially fend a position off, because it is just that crucial of a corner. You realistically, unless somebody messes up the corner prior, it's very difficult to get a run going for one of the other turns on the track.
And I just wonder, like, we talk about the difference on the pit stops and the 8-lap difference or whatever we think it is between the likes of Trudell, Leszczynski, Kalist, and the rest, Jones, Chambers, Bowie, and company. They didn't look that bad the last time, right? They didn't get swallowed up. That's not to say that it's going to be easy, but they didn't get swallowed up. So maybe they can ride a yellow here, a yellow there, and a couple of those opportunities to get into the mix, to be able to, stay. Because the thing with this track position is, I guess some drivers do it for the win. I don't think you're really going to win the race at this point, right? You look at these drivers, with the exception of Kyle Trudell, I guess, who could be a surprise. You got Leszczynski from 20th, Kalis from 38th. Heck, even the drivers on the freshest of rubber. Dylan Jones started 30th. Brian Chambers behind him started 24th. I mean, look at the big green marks up for those drivers inside of the top 5. This is more of a track position play, but I think we jinxed it when we were talking about how good that opening, 12-lap green flag run is on, because instead we had a caution at lap 20, caution at lap 25, 27, caution at lap 32. The interval's getting shorter and shorter, and a little bit of Pocono yellow fever under our 4th caution right now.
Yeah, we had to go and open our mouths, didn't we?
I mean, you said it, not me, so I'll
fair enough.
Throw you under the bus for that one, because I've jinxed it enough myself. So
I'll put the good old C in the chat, and I'll take responsibility for that one, if that makes it any better for you.
Take the responsibility for the yellow, which not a lot of drivers have done thus far this evening. Only Nick Barra claimed the one earlier on lap number 20, but the lights will go out on top of the base car this time by. So restart coming around to put 35 laps behind us and take 30 laps to go. The yellow flags haven't been quite as bad as they once were here at Pocono, it seems, but all you need is a little bit of a green flag sprint, and we could get pretty close to the end of this race here soon.
These guys just need to be able to have a bit of opportunity here, so we can, get people spread out a little bit more. And part of the reason why you have all these cautions coming out is you have a lot of guys on older tires that run up in front. You got some other guys that are on fresh tires running further in the rear, and everybody at the moment is trying to gun for the same positions at the same time, and they're also tightly packed together, which makes it a lot more prone to accidents. Part of the reason why we had that long run before is because the top 13 had a great breakaway for the rest of the field. Fortunately, on back, not so much. They battled each other out and settled into their own little fights. That's why that run was so long. These guys just need to give each other some room, need to give each other some patience here. Maybe that way we'll be able to get people a little bit more spread out, and we'll get some longer green flag runs in.
Trudell, no surprise. In fact, some of the drivers were joking, we should have a caution, a choose cone or whatever. And some drivers said, you wouldn't do much. The inside, is the clear choice for the top position, and really don't want to be any rows further back than you need to be. So no surprise that Trudell opts to select the inside for the restart. Leszczynski P2, of course. Dylan Jones, look out for the 20. He's the lead car on the freshest of tires. Everybody is on 6-lap old tires, minus Trudell in first, Leszczynski in second, Kalist in 4th, and Durham in 9th. Those are the drivers on a little bit older tires, 13 laps old. Coming to this restart, a little bit of a slower roll. We're underway, and Leszczynski right alongside the 7.
So Leszczynski goes from 20th place up to the front, but he is not clear yet. Kyle Trudell going to go down to the inside line. The 7 car does clear for the race lead. Leszczynski cannot do anything about it. Here comes Dylan C. Jones. 3, 4 wide, almost just behind these guys. Oh, they're gonna wreck your suit if they're not careful here. They're going to be wrecking either this lap or the next one.
Yeah, they are always trying, and the thing is, look at Eberhard a touch, and then they go a spin. Ferdinand involved. 2 cars, 3 cars around. More will slide in, a half a dozen in the tunnel turn, and another yellow, lap number 36.
I called it. I had just said they're going to wreck either this time around or the next time around. They're being way too aggressive, and sure enough, honestly, one of the drivers that's so unfortunate to get caught up in that was Michael Araya. He actually made it out of the initial wreck. Unfortunately, Jimmy Miller just barely got clipped by Durham on the inside, being involved in that, and he just slid right up into Laraya. Neither driver could do anything about it, though Laraya took one of the hardest hits of the wreck as well. Take a look from the aerial camera, and there we're going to see there goes into number 12 of Ross Cato, just sliding into the fray. All tires locked up, nowhere to go. So unfortunate. A lot of good cars just got torn up because of that.
I think if we could get an onboard look with the 9, that would give us the best perspective, because it looked like they were 4 wide, then they were 3 wide, and it was kind of all over the place. Let's see what Thomas George is. To me, it looks like Durham on the bottom is going to come up and up and up until they run out of room. Watch the 10, and let's see. And to me, it looks like he just kept trying to get up in line to get a better arc into the corner and just cut across and cut off the 9. Maybe that's an oversimplification, right? I mean, it's crazy in the pack, but, you know, hindsight's 20/20. From up top, looked like Durham was squeezing.
Well, it's also important to note that, you know, when you have a run like this, I mean, a lot of these guys do have the tendency to run an iRacing spot instead of a real one. Steve Durham among them. If you're in a gap like that, iRacing typically, in my experience at least, calls you clear. He might not have even known there was a car that was outside. And that is, he might not have known he was 3 wide. Obviously, he knew there was a car that was outside, but he might not have known there was a car a lot closer than he potentially thought there was.
Seen that a couple of times tonight, where there's a little, I don't think miscommunication is the right word, right? But a little bit of uncertainty on where somebody is. If everybody's, you know, door to door to door, pretty easy to tell where the cars are around you. The staggering was the big thing there, right? They were 4 wide, de facto 3 wide, de facto 2 wide. Nobody was really up alongside each other, so it was hard to tell who was where, as half of the field is down for pit search. Top 15 cars stay out.
And you can see a majority of those drivers that are down have damage on their cars as well because of that. There was, honestly, from my count, about 10 total drivers that got caught up in that. Now, that's not counting all the drivers that, you know, just spun around. That's counting everybody that got the slightest piece of damage from that. So 10, give or take, is about my count on that one. So definitely the biggest wreck we've had on the night, and likely still not going to be the only one. Now, of course, the other thing to note, that because that caution came out on that restart lap, single file restarts, am I not correct?
It will be a single file restart. Most of the incidents as well have been towards the back of the field, so some of the guys up front sarcastically asked if things could be cleaned up, because they obviously don't like the stop and start in the middle of the race. And to that point, somebody else chimed in and said, well, it's going to be a single file restart because we did not complete an entire lap. Won't be this time. Lights are still on top of the pace car, but it will be single file, which should help space things out. I mean, we saw the opening 12-lap run in this race, Nolan. These guys were able to race it out, and it's not like they were taking it easy. It was still good racing, so it shows that you can do both.
Oh yeah, like, they absolutely, you know, they were not giving each other an easy time about it, but on the other hand, they weren't going, you know, 3-4 wide into every single corner. So it's these little things that sometimes you got to realize there's a common denominator about how the racing is around these cautions, and then you start to look at that and you think, okay, if we want fewer cautions, maybe it's time to look at how we're racing, change it up a little bit. And I think that's what a lot of these guys now are starting to slowly piece together.
And I questioned the strategy call by Trudell and Liszczynski, but the yellow flags are significantly helping them out.
That they are. I mean, we take a look up at Kyle Trudell and Mariusz Liszczynski. I was predicting here that they were going to be overtaken within the next 5, or the first 5 or so laps, with taking their tires because they were on 7-lap older tires. Well, sure enough, their gamble paid off. they were probably banking on there being more cautions to allow them to kind of wear in the other guys' tires quicker, and that's worked. Now the guys behind them are on 10 lap older tires. They're on 17, granted, but the tire performance advantage is not nearly as great. They're really gonna have to watch out for guys like Matt Danson, who are on 17 lap older tires and who are going to be charging up through the field.
And I had a point and I just totally forgot it right as I went to say it. Should note as well, though, that Steve Durham claims responsibility for the yellow, so he'll get the end of the longest line of penalty, and we'll have a long way to go. But single file, the point I was going to make comes back to me. The fact that, there is a lap difference on tires, but so many of those laps have been under yellow that the tires are pretty cold, they're not that hot. It's more realistically like a 3 or 4 difference on green flag laps. Is that still noticeable? Yeah, when the cars to the advantage are on stickers, right? Brand new tires. Once you get 10 laps in, the 4-lap difference isn't as significant. Certainly the space hit on this restart will help. Leszczynski was oh so aggressive at the last restart alongside Trudell. This time the single file up against the wall. A shot to the bumper of the 7. He says, let's go. 26 laps to go.
And I don't think Leszczynski will be able to get to him by the time they get down to turn number 1. It's a 4-car tandem, though, right and behind, trying to catch up to your race leader. One car looks at the inside. That's Nick Silver, juking down to the inside of his teammate, Brandon Bowie. Sean Casto also picks up a spot on Dylan C. Jones, one of those drivers that took fuel only. Jones makes a jump to the inside, trying to go for the crossover. That move, though, was too aggressive. He scrubbed off too much speed. He's got to tuck back in line.
Big run for Leszczynski, but instead of making a late dive to the inside in 2, he stays on the bumper. You look off at the back of race leader Kyle Trudell. Leszczynski slowed through the tunnel. Here comes Bowie. He'll go to the inside in turn number 3. Silver looks to follow, and Brandon Bowie, your pole sitter, moving his way back up, or your second place starter, I should say, but has been up and into the mix for the majority of this night, and leading most of it is back up to P2.
Some very fierce fights going in just behind these guys, but you take a look back at Dylan C. Jones, who gets blocked by Sean Casta, put into the wall as a result of that one. That is going to cause him to sacrifice up to Grace Rabel in his Century Communities Ford Mustang. Jones trying to go for the over-under. This time will have the speed to do so, and has a huge run down towards the tunnel turn, but that was a bit of a nasty block there from Sean Casto to the number 20.
And look at Leszczynski. He is way out on an island on the very outside. He gets passed by Casto, passed by Rabel, and now the 90 machine Daniel Eberhardt needed a good points night behind him. We've talked about Eberhardt's woes, a race winner from earlier in the season, which gave him that ticket into the playoffs when he won at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway, but has been unable to maintain top 25 of the points. Has had good runs the last few weeks, but has wrecked out or parked it late in all of them, which has caused him to slip to 29th. He could really use top 10 points this evening ahead of Chambliss ahead of George, and that's where he pick up the battle between Jaron Winemaster and some company, Dylan Jones, all over him.
So still single filed out for pretty much the entire field that's up to speed. Take a look at this battle of Maris Leszczynski now under fire from Brian Chambliss. Chambliss cannot complete the pass through turn number 2. He's going to have to tuck in behind the 03 and have another run down the front straightaway. Now, this also kind of brings up another point. We've been seeing a couple of drivers trying to maybe go for the over-under out of 3 and down the front straightaway. It really doesn't work, though, if you're in the draft of the guy in front. You really almost have to have a drafted partner to work with you down the front straight, such as the case here for Brandon Bowie, who is going to make an easy pass on Kyle Trudell. And look at this. Nick Silver is looking to follow. So is Sean Casto, Chris Rabel, all in the mix in the battle for the race lead.
So finally, they break through on Kyle Trudell, and now it is going to be coming fast and furious against that 7-car at Trudell. Bowie to the race lead, Silver to second, Casto to third, Rabel to fourth. Eberhardt trying to give that 7 a bit of life by pushing him off it into the tunnel turn, but that friendliness only going to last for so long. Now he's got the run. Again, nowhere to go. Why not push the 7 cars? So Trudell going to be kept in this race and, in fact, get that spot back from Rabel just because of the push he was getting from the 90.
Hey, if you can't go anywhere, you may as well make yourself go somewhere by pushing up the guy in front of you. There's no point just backing off. You may as well, help yourself out along with the guys up in front. 3 wide as well, just behind these guys. Dylan C. Jones and Thomas George are having a good fight here in drafted trains. Jared Wymus are getting swamped in the middle. Lost 4 spots in just the one straightaway.
Rabel also had a little bit of a twitch, which cost him to lose a handful more spots. So not only does the 7 maintain 4th, but he actually gets passed by Eberhardt, Chambliss, and company. So that's how he slides back to the number 7 spot. And a little bit slow through the tunnel turn is Trudell again. Here's Eberhardt's move to the bottom. Your top 8 drivers pull it away for the field as that 90 finally makes the move in turn 3.
That puts Eberhardt up to 4th, continuing to close on the podium drivers. Kyle Trudell is going to back off, going to decide to allow Eberhardt to pull himself closer and closer towards these front runners here. Does Eberhardt go for the move? Decides against it. Oh, looks for the inside of Sean Castro. Takes a bit of an interesting line, a very wide entry, and a much tighter exit. That's not going to do much good for him, though, in his run.
No, it's not. And now Rabel again puts the nose down to the inside in that battle for 6 and 7. I actually thought he had the run down to 2 to do it, but must have wanted to be conservative, laid off, took it easy, and allowed the 25 of Chambliss to defend. Now here comes Eberhardt again, this time to the inside of Sean Casto in a battle for 3rd. Daniel Eberhardt is slicing through the field, but he gets tight, pushes up, catches Casto. Casto hangs on. What a save. It backs him up, and now Chambliss way to the inside.
Oh, wrecking into behind them. Dylan C. Jones just got turned around hard into the inside wall. Eric de Blasio bounces back on course, and tell you what, Dylan Jones, he is not a happy man. Just ran into the stopped car again of de Blasio, and understandably so. That was another case there, just like we saw in the very first caution of this race, of one driver trying to side draft and have it go all horribly wrong.
And that goes all the way back to turn number 2. You can see here's the touch that spins him, but I want to see if we can get a shot coming out of 2 because they were all over each other the entire time in turn 3 also. The 11 of de Blasio just couldn't hold the bottom in turn 3. And because he couldn't hold the bottom, he's pushing up, but he's just leaning on the 20. They touch once, twice, 3 times before they even get to the straightaway. And then it's the 4th touch that finishes him off.
The whole mess there is a little bit silly, if I'm being completely honest. I mean, you already know that you don't have the speed. You just got tied. You just touched the guy 3 times, both through turn 3, hopefully unintentionally. So that why then would you try to side draft him on the front straightaway when you have nobody to help you? You have no run coming as well. We'll take a look at this one from the air. There's Dylan C. Jones just up the road. Here is their de Blasio left car on the outside.
Late dive. And now he'll start pushing.
There's the first touch. I believe there might have been the second. And there's the 3rd. And that almost forced Jones to the outside wall. Then tries to side draft. I mean, I don't say this very often, but what were you thinking?
Well, and his thinking is, listen, I'm slow off of the corner. I need to make a move. But that's not the way to do it because not only, worst case scenario, he's a little bit slower off of the corner. Worst case scenario, Winemaster passes you and you're in 15th. Now, you're in a wrecked race car on pit road in 24th. I just don't think the risk versus reward was there.
Animated enemy on track as well. I mean, the 20 car, you saw it there. The first shot obviously still out of control, but the second shot, I have a hard time believing Dylan was not expressing a little bit of frustration there when he started to get the car going again. It was already pretty much at a full stop. Gave him a little bit of a nudge, though, as he started to get it going, then flipped it around and started going. So I have a hard time believing that that second nudge from Dylan Jones was not intentional. So he's got a bit of an enemy on course as well, if he managed to make it back out there. A lot of drivers, though, coming down pit road.
18 laps to go. Most of these cars have 2 sets of tires left, so I would not be shocked if it's a 4-tire call Lot of yellows since we were last on pit road, but the longest interval we've gone lap to lap without your race leaders having come down pit road. So Brandon Bowie had the race lead early in this one, had to fight and claw to get it back. Let's see how his execution is on pit road. McBride all the way down. He's the #1 pit stall. Some drivers towards the rear already out with service completed. It's going to be 4 tires for the cars up front. Where does Bowie shake out on the throttle? He is the first off. No, he gets beat by a handful. Jaron Winemaster passes them all. A 2-tire decision for the driver of the 48 machine. Matt Danson also drives through on right side tires only. And then Sean Casto, the first off on 4, ahead of his teammate Bowie. So Brandon Bowie again losing spots on pit road, the story of his race.
I honestly find this whole tire strategy very interesting. I don't think there'd be a track where we'd see a lot more right side tires being taken than, you know, a track like Pocono. I mean, this track just burns up right side tires, especially in turns 2 and 3, where the banking is so much more less than what you have over in turn 1. I mean, you take a look at turn 3, banked at just 6 degrees compared to turn 1's 14. That's twice the banking there that turn 1 has over turn 3. This track is a killer on the right sides. That's why this is one of those tracks where we see right side tires only being taken a lot more than any other track, really.
I just find, like, for Bowie here, you're obviously going to lose out to the cars on 2 tires, right? I mean, nobody's shocked by that decision. So Winemaster and Danson go for the 2-tire call. Bold. Hadn't really worked that great for people tonight. Danson's been on pit road 5 times tonight. Winemaster's only been down 3, so I don't know what Danson's tire situation is. I wish we had that information. We don't. Maybe one day it would help us out talking strategy, but, you know, you're going to get beat off of pit road with the guys on 2 tires. That's no doubt. It's the fact that that's at least, I think, by my count, Nolan, the 3rd time that his own teammate Casto has beat him off of the pit lane, and they've both taken, you know, 4 tires every instant. Somehow that 52 is just so efficient.
He certainly is. I mean, Sean Casto's been perfectly coming into these boxes and, you know, then leaving those pit boxes. It is absolutely unbelievable what we've been able to see from that 52 car. He has been definitely king of pit stops all day long, and that has all put him up into the 5th position. Only +2 for his starter, but compared to how far some others have fallen, definitely not a bad position to be sitting right now.
And of course, not everybody pitted. Your top handful of drivers staying out. So Brian Chambliss on 20-lap old tires has gone to the race lead. We talk about strategy. First time tonight, the race leader has opted to go with the outside line for the restart. So that'll put Stanford down on the bottom of the racetrack. K-List also on 11-lap old tires. And then it's Freshies twofer for Casto and Winemaster 4. Oh, and Danson. Don't forget Danson in there as well, the 2, and then 4 for everybody else on back. So who knows how this will play out. We are in the closing stages of tonight's SimSeats 163. This restart will come with 16 laps to go. From Long Pond, Pennsylvania, happy that you're with us at RaceSpot TV, round 14 of these 2021 SimSeats RealSimRacing Cup Series races. Let's see what the outside does for the first time tonight. Chambliss in control. Green flag back in the air.
Not the best of launches for Eric Stanford, though. Already tries to go to cover off Jared Winemaster, though, will have that run down this front straightaway towards turn #1. Has the draft from Brian Chambliss to work with. Gets clear. 3 wide already coming down to the turn #1. Matt Danson trying to make up ground on the bottom side. Sean Kalis is dropping back in a hurry. Kyle Janelle barely squeezes past, and Sean Kalis is going to be dropping back. I have a feeling, though, we're going to be seeing Brian Chambliss dropping back in very short order here as well.
And looking at that 52, first driver early to break through, but he's got nowhere to go. Gives a bit of a touch there to the 19 to Stanford. He goes to the outside. Will that pay off for Casto? The 3 car of Silver following through. Danson now working down on the bottom. And with a wiggle, the 52 drives it hard. What a push by Casto. He'll go up to 3rd. Battle for the race lead. It's Winemaster to the inside on Chambliss.
Jaron Weinmaster will go to the point for turn number 1. Brian Chambers will not be able to realistically fight this one out. Now the question is, can Sean Castile potentially make a run and get another lap led on the day? Behind Brandon Bowie, squeezes up Eric Stanford to the outside wall and nearly runs him into it. A lot of these drivers starting to get very, very aggressive here within 15 laps to go.
And look off at the back of Wadmaster. Chambliss discarded of on the outside. Here comes the 3 of silver. He's able to get around Casto. Should get a first crack of the race leader. How aggressive does the 52 want to be? He won't put his teammate 3 wide, but he'll help the enemy. Casto up top to push Chambliss back to second. He gets third. Now to the bottom. What a drive for Casto to the race lead.
He hasn't got it yet, though. Weinmaster is pushing up, but I don't think Castro's got this one quite yet. No, he doesn't. Weinmaster holds on for now. And the reason why Sean Castile got such a good run was because he was bump drafting. He will not have that big of a run this next time by if he decides to go for that pass, unless Brian Chambliss, once again, team rivals there, helps him out.
I'm just impressed with how hard Sean Castile is driving that race car. He is giving it 110%. Castile got a first career RSR Cup Series win earlier this year at Talladega. He wants more. They're fighting for third on the back, but he is looking for the lead. Big run on Weinmaster, but he'll stay on the bumper and not force the issue.
I think at this point in time, he's trying to help Weinmaster pull a gap. He wants to make sure that he can successfully go for that position and not have to worry about threat from behind, particularly from Chambliss and Brandon Bowie. Alternatively, he could be waiting for Brandon Bowie to close in the gap as well to be able to get a team to properly help him out there. Oh boy, you just barely saw that on the back end of Weinmaster. Brandon Bowie slid up a little bit and definitely applied quite a nasty block on Brian Chambliss. I tell you what, I mean, block it has certainly been the theme of today's race when it comes to defensive driving.
We have seen a lot of that in this race, but I wonder if this patience that Castile is showing is going to come back to hurt him because his teammate is getting back on the seat. Brandon Bowie making 2 passes on the last lap up to third. He'll now close for the number 2 spot. Now Castile forced to go to the race lead. So Sean Castile makes the first move, but Jaron Weinmaster fighting back through turn 1, side by side for the race lead. The 48 hangs on.
And right behind, Daniel Eberhardt clipped the outside wall. Brandon Bowie has not been letting anybody get a run on him so far in this restart. And he is now right on the back end of his teammate, Sean Castile. Jaron Weinmaster is no doubt feeling a little bit nervous. Daniel Eberhardt, though, looking to potentially split up these 2 teammates, though. If that is what happens, this could be crucial. Oh, but that's Brandon Bowie's turn to decide to not help out his teammate. He's going to go to the outside.
Seems pretty clear Weinmaster the slowest of these 4, but don't tell him that takes him out of this. He's going to fight just as hard as everybody else. Weinmaster looking for a win that could lock him in to the 2021 playoffs. He was the 25th ranked driver coming into this evening, just good enough for a race win to count towards postseason eligibility. Castile into the bottom. This time he'll hold. Bowie sits third. Here comes Eberhardt to the inside for third, for second. Daniel Eberhardt, what a drive down to corner number 2, and he'll go from 4th to the lead with a slide job off the tunnel.
What a move there from Daniel Eberhardt, but it's not going to be enough. Jaron Weinmaster with the crossover down for turn number 3. This is some of the best racing we've been seeing all night long. Daniel Eberhardt is flying to the number 9 machine. Weinmaster bobbles. Castile's going to get a run on the inside. He's got his teammate Brandon Bowie this time round to give him a hand. All right, is this going to be enough here to potentially have a run for the race lead? We'll have to wait and see. Daniel Eberhardt is still going to be just barely clear by the time they get for turn 1.
Incredible stuff up front, racing for the win here at Pocono. Castile drove it in a little bit too hard, maybe courtesy of a push from Bowie, and it really hurt him in turn 1. He'll drop to third, now the 34 on deck, and a yellow for Leschinski. Was running in 11th position and got squeezed up and into the fence.
Oh, what a shame to end off these battles here. That was some awesome racing, but it's going to be reset here. We're talking under 10 laps to go. That is going to be a very intense run to the end. Take a look at this replay here for Leszczynski, and whoa! What on earth happened there?
That was almost Casey Kane-esque, you know, putting the back end into the trees. If the catch fence wasn't there on the back straightaway, good job for most of those cars to avoid the barrel rolling 03. And if you talk about drivers needed a good night, Mariusz Leszczynski in a position to try to race into the playoffs based on points. He was 19th in the general points standings. If you talk about the points weighted with wins, that would drop him to 20th, so 4 spots out on the bubble. That is a huge hit to Leszczynski's playoff hopes after having a good run tonight.
It is. That's not looking good then for Mariusz Leszczynski. He does still have some time to work with it here. Of course, we take a look at where we're at. I mean, we're still not even halfway through this season. It's been a long season so far, and there's still a lot more to go. So he should be able to recover, but it's going to be rough for him. I mean, he's 19th place at the moment. He is going to lose a ton of points, likely drop outside the top 20 as a result of that incident. Such a shame.
So now an opportunity, having, of course, just completed some service for maybe some of the drivers towards the back. Look at this.
That's a shot right there. And, oh, look at David Washington on the inside. Just barely.
And I think
so
Washington
close.
is fortunate to get away with such little damage on that, all things considered, because it was a pretty good lick.
Yeah, it was. I mean, that's not a place you usually see a car hitting, though. It's not uncommon to see cars slamming into each other when they're wrecking, but to be slamming not just into somebody's driver's side, but square into their engine hood, that's a new one, and one that you don't really see all too often. And honestly, that is still amazing how that car just lost. It's like he ran over a speed bump. The car just like kicked up into the air and just flipped over from there.
So some drivers do decide to pit. The big call comes with Daniel Eberhardt. Eberhardt decided to peel away from the race lead in this one, while most of the drivers around him opted to stay out. I think that is Eberhardt's last set of 4 tires that he took. Your top 10 stay out. Fresh tires will be 11th on back for a restart, likely at maybe 6 laps to go.
It's going to be intense. I mean, remember how we were taking a look at how some of these guys were battling when we still had 40 laps to go? Well, what do you think it's going to be like now that we got 6 laps to go? I mean, this is one of those phases here. It's going to be all bets are off. You got Sean Cass and Brandon Bowie starting 1-2. They are not going to be able to help each other out here on the restart unless, you know, one of these drivers allows the other to get in line. It's going to be difficult here. Not to mention Jaron Wymus has wanted to work his way into the mix, and he is actually splitting up Casto and Nick Silver, another one of those teammates in the mix as well. So you got 3 different drivers here, 1st, 2nd, and 4th, all looking to potentially have a very good run towards the end of this race. I tell you what, Keeping It Real Motorsports has got one heck of a drive ahead of them.
They do, and we'll see, are the cars up front? Is that enough strength in numbers? Is that little enough laps to make this work? We've seen that 8-lap difference or so play out, and it's been stronger, but I don't think it's going to be as simple as Eberhardt just blitzing the field and driving up there on 2 laps. It may almost be better for Bowie and company to get a quick caution and burn some of the laps to go under yellow, I would think.
So 6 laps remaining will be the case when we take that green flag. So you got Bowie in 1st, Casta 2nd. Now, you know, so often when it comes to road course racing, we see teammates often helping the driver that's currently in the lead to get that race win. Oval racing, very different story. You often see teammates working together at tracks like this, but when it comes to that last lap, all bets are off. You reckon it's going to be the same way here?
I would think so. It seemed like all bets were off on that last run because that was some great stuff up front that we saw. The slide jobs with Eberhardt and company. I mean, that was the potential. We knew that this race could get messy. Middle portion of the race, it did get messy. But it could also be an incredible race, and that was some of the best stuff I think we've seen up front all year in that last battle.
Oh, it absolutely was, but Daniel Eberhardt's run was just absolutely legendary, and it's a bit of a shame that Eberhardt, was not really the best on that last stop. He decided to make that pit stop. He came in, and he's now sitting 11th. Now, he is 11 and 21 laps faster on tires than the guys in front of him. This will be interesting. I wonder if Eberhardt potentially has a shot to win this one.
It'd be big for him. Of course, wins for him would get him additional bonus points, 3 bonus points starting the round of 16 per regular season win. But the big advantage for Eberhardt would be just the points that come with a race win. Again, his focus is getting back to the top 25. So his win that he already has counts for the postseason. It's been a wild night so far at Pocono. The pace car off and in with 6 laps to go. Brandon Bowie brings us back to the green flag.
And Jared Wymister did not go, so it's a keeping it real 1, 2, 3 at the moment, locking out the podium. Trudell giving a bit of a shock to Nick Silver, trying to help him out in the run down towards turn number 1. Looks like Sean Gaston will help out Brandon Bowie to try to pull away with the lead. Wymister trying to go for it. Eberhardt 4 wide back in the field. He's already cracked the top 10.
He wants to make those fresh tires work. Back to 2x2 in the run to the tunnel turn. Your top 4 single file. Widemaster slipping. He'll drop all the way down to position number 6 side by side with Bradley Burke. So Eberhardt tries to find a hole. Now to the inside on Ravel. He's already driven his way up to 8th. Can't make that spot stick. 3 wide behind. It's Chambliss to the very inside as Bowie leads off the corner.
Brandon Bowie leads the first lap of the restart. Daniel Eberhardt, though, will not have a run at all unless he can get a shove here, potentially for Dance, but it's not going to be a shove. Dance is going to try to go for some glory himself. That's going to be all for naught, though. So Daniel Eberhardt currently sitting in 9th place. He still has a shot to get this one. He's got some work to do, but it's been a reasonable shot at this at the moment, unless he pushes up the track like that. We just saw the massive pushing from Understeer off of turn number 1. He's definitely not going to win the race if he keeps making mistakes like that one.
He's boxed in. Daniel Eberhardt is up at the outside. So when in doubt, just push the car ahead of you out of the way. He'll give Winemaster a big shove into the corner. Eberhardt will fight off Rabel on the bottom. He's up to position number 8, but he's 1.6 seconds off. Coming to 4 laps to go. I don't think the Nani car has enough time. Now to the outside on Winemaster up to 7.
Great move there from Eberhardt, taking that pass with force around the outside line. Now is a huge draft run on Bradley Burke. He's also got a run on Eric Stanford. It's 4 laps to go. He has so much time to make up. If these guys in the front start battling with each other, it could be all over. Kyle Trudell in front is still trying to see if he can crack into the keep it a real 1, 2, 3. Meanwhile, Jared Wymister loses the spot. Oh, Rick in behind! Look out! Stanford slams the inside wall hard to the 19 car. That is the caution, Evan, that Daniel Eberhardt needs to potentially win this race.
It'll give him a chance as this one will go to overtime. It was Eric Stanford running in 5th position who gets touched by the 95 of Bradley Burke and gets destroyed on the inside wall. Look at this hit.
That is a very hard shot to the wall. Eric Stanford is certainly not going to be able to contend a whole lot for positions after that shot to the inside wall. And Sandiego behind. I mean, Eric Stanford's going all over the place. Sandiego, that poor number 2, he just didn't know where to go. He ended up having to decide to take the outside at the very last second and managed to make that one work. But we were talking about the top 4 had that 1.6 second gap over Eberhardt. Well, guess what? He's up 6 spots now in a 5th. Jeff within shouting distance of that win. It will be 2 to go. But this time, he doesn't have a 1.6 second gap to contend with.
Yeah, irony. I said that those guys up front almost wanted a yellow, right? I was thinking immediately yellow, so he didn't have time to get any positions. That's not the caution they wanted, because I think Eberhardt would have been hard-pressed to make up that time in the laps that were left in this race. Now he'll be on the 3rd row for a 2-lap shootout. We will have 3 attempts at a green-white-checkered overtime finish. Can use that many if necessary. So Daniel Eberhardt may still have a chance yet. Of course, Stanford, the one that's frustrated at all of this. Another late race incident for him, for the driver that averages 9.8 incidents per race. That is 7th highest out of anybody in the 2021 SimSeats Real Sim Racing Cup Series. But we talk about the Keep It Real cars. Not only are they good on track here tonight, but they're some of the best cars, Nolan, in this series. As you look at the 1, 2, 3, Brandon Bowie, your race leader, is 4th in points. Don Casto sits 2nd. He's 5th in points. And Nick Silver sits 3rd. He is 2nd in points. No surprise, Keep It Real is also your team championship leaders, 92 points ahead of Flat Out Motorsports. So one of the newer teams here to the SimSeats Real Sim Racing Cup Series, and they have a chance to make some history here tonight.
So now, I think Sean Cass and Daniel Eberhardt have a bit of a conundrum in front of them, because they know that Keeping It Real have a 1, 2, 3. They're going to be fighting to try to keep them behind at all costs. Now, these are two guys from different teams. You've got Kyle Trudell from the Extreme Performance Motorsports, and then you have the SK SimRacing driver of Daniel Eberhardt. Despite being from rival teams, though, I would say the best thing these two can do is work together. They know Keep It Real are going to be work together, at least to the white flag. They need to link up here, put any potential differences on track aside, work together. That's the only way, realistically, that they can have a shot at that win. If Keep It Real do what I think they might do and decide to really defend here and help one another get that win that they need, no matter which one of them gets it, they're going to need to work together. It won't be able to be a case for those two drivers about just taking every man for himself.
I'm just enjoying listening in to all the radio chatter amongst these drivers. The unique thing about the rules, though, is that, Nolan, this is the only Green-white-checkered that can have 2 wide restarts. Of course, if we have any further attempts, it will be single file restarts, because if you get a lap in, you get to the white flag, the race is official. So this may be Eberhardt's best opportunity, right? Row 3 car lengths back, is a lot better than being P5 5 car lengths back. He was pretty aggressive, but for the most part, he wasn't making it 3 wide. Aside from that incredible move earlier, I still can't get over it. It went from 4th to 1st, from turn 1 to turn 2, probably one of the passes of the year that we've seen. But he's opted to push rather than dive. I would not be shocked if Eberhardt's on the fence in the run to turn 1.
It's important, worth noting as well, that he was aggressive on that 11th restart. Like I said, pushed it 4 wide in the turn number 1. Didn't get up all those spots. He only made up 1 out of result of all of that. But the point is, he did push it 4 wide, and I have a feeling he will not be afraid to do it again. So 1 degree, and you can practically feel the energy starting to ramp up among the drivers here. I mean, no doubt everybody in this grouping here are starting to crunch some numbers in their mind, figure out what do they need to do to get these wins, what do they need to put themselves in the best possible position for that ever important run on that white flag lap.
Well, this will be our first attempt at a green-white-checkered overtime finish. It is Keeping It Real Esports, dominant in this race, sitting 1, 2, and 3. Brandon Bowie, maybe the best car in the field tonight. But they do have 10-lap older tires than the challenger Daniel Eberhardt, who made the gamble to give up the race lead on the yellow flag previous to this one, coming to 10 laps to go in this race. And he is the one who's trying to drive through the field. A 2-part question all in one. Is this going to be the end? And if so, who do you see holding out?
Is it going to be the end? Very difficult to say. I'm going to say no. I feel like these guys were racing way too aggressively for them to be able to make it safely around to the white flag lap, but crazier things have happened before. Who's going to win? I'm honestly putting my money on Eberhardt here.
It would be quite a drive. Bowie, the best car of the night. Eberhardt, the most aggressive and dominant car late in this one. See how it shakes out. The pace car to the safety of pit road. The field in the hands of Brandon Bowie. Green-white-checkered overtime finish. Attempt number 1 in the SimSeats 163 at Pocono. Green flag flies. 2 laps to go.
2 to go. Sean Casto holding up the outside line a little bit. Eberhardt trying to squeeze in. Trudell against the outside. Casto gets him live with keeping it real. Brandon Bowie leads the way into turn number 1. Oh, wrecking already. Trudell gets spun into turn number 1. There it is. Somehow saves it. But that is going to do it. And Daniel Eberhardt has just parked it.
And I can't figure out if the caution was the caution for Trudell getting sideways, or was there something else? Because Daniel Eberhardt is the one who touched Kyle Trudell. So he figured that he was probably going to get sent to the end of the longest line, but Eberhardt's theme of having good runs ruined by parking it late is only going to hurt him more in the points. He'll likely drop out of the top 30. Could have been looking at a Daniel Eberhardt race win. Daniel Eberhardt further and further away from being in the playoffs after he cleans out Kyle Trudell, who, credit to the 7, one of the best saves of the year. Let's not forget about that. Full lock and a catch for the 7.
Well, talk about a commentator's curse and a half right there. I mean, I've had some bad ones before. That has got to be the worst one among them. So, second attempt. We saw how well the first one went. They're going to be single file the next time around as we ride on board with Kyle Trudell here. Oh my goodness. Like you said, full lock. Manages to get it back up. Oh, shout out to whoever it was. I think it might have scraped doors with one car just in front of them, but they also did a good job to save that one.
Yeah, he got a little bit of a touch by Kalist, but he could have gotten run over. So credit to him for the save, and as you mentioned, credit to everybody else who avoiding him for the most part.
So I'm honestly at a crossroads here because we saw how well the first one checker went. Of course, they were double file. They're going to be single file for this next attempt here. Does it play out the same way? This is exactly what Keep It Real wants. Now they have not just 1, 2, and 3, but they're also going to be single file for that 1, 2, and 3, so they can all help each other get away. Whereas take a look at the driver right behind them of Matt Danson, potentially not so much as we ride on board with Winemaster.
Good piece of driving by him as well to squeeze through and avoid that one. He could have easily had wrecked into it. So all in all, that could have been a dozen-car pileup, if not for some good driving by a handful of drivers to keep this one in check.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like, that could have been, detrimental, honestly, to a whole lot of drivers in this field. And once again, what's going to be the case here now for a lot of these drivers? I mean, you got yourself that second attempt here at a green-white-checkered finish, and heads up for Sean Casto as Free Dodge like a dog trying to make it around the outside line, getting a little checked up behind the 52 car, but no harm, no foul. I don't know. This is going to be interesting, I think it is, to say the least. You've got your teammates up in front. Do they help each other, or do they try to go for the glory?
Wave around for Friedage, by the way, kind of lost in all of this is the fact that Andrew Friedage has been 4 laps down after being involved in a wreck in the tunnel turn. And with Eberhardt gone, the next car on fresh tires, Nolan, who we haven't talked about, Matt Danson in position number 4. Didn't seemingly have the same pace that Daniel did, but he's going to be all the way up on row 2 for this restart. Could Danson get his first oval win of the year?
He is going to be 4 car lengths back, which is the important thing to note here, because it is going to be a single file restart, which has just now been taken into effect as the base car lights are out. I think Danson might have to have some help here from Jared Wymaster just behind, and Wymaster might be thinking the same way. I mean, talk about Jared Wymaster. He has had such an up and down day, hasn't he? He's kind of gone backwards. He has gone forwards. Now he's up plus 20 where he started today in 25th, and he's looking to maybe avoid the race win himself. Maybe help out Danson.
So they're going to be single file up against the outside, and you're right. I said Danson's going to be on row 2. He'll actually be basically row 4 on his own. It could hurt him in the fact that he's going to be further back behind physically than your leader. It could help him in the fact, Nolan, that he won't be boxed in behind Silver like they would be if they were 2x2. Single file allows him to make whatever move he wants.
He has 3 teammates up in front of him, though, to contend with. That's the big problem that Danson has at the moment. And keeping it real has locked out the top 3 positions. It is going to be so difficult for him to get past. I have a feeling you're judging on how that last restart went. Nick Silver and Sean Castro, they're going to be helping out Brandon Bowie to try to help him come with the win. They were certainly doing a good job of trying to fend the field off behind on that last restart. I'm expecting the same deal here in this final, what could be the final restart.
See how this one plays out. It'll be attempt number 2 at a green-white-checkered finish. Because the first one had a yellow within 1 lap of the restart, we go to single file restart procedures. Brandon Bowie will be the control car for this one once more, trying to close it out. He is looking for race win number 3 on 2021. Of course, he was your race winner just a week ago at Nashville. The pace car's off it in. The number 34 in control. Pedal to the metal as they check up behind. 2 laps to go from Pocono.
2 to go. Boo's going to be sitting duck here if his 2 Keeping It Real teammates decide to go for it. Matt Danson is way to the wings just behind. So charging to turn 1 for what could be the penultimate time today. Brandon Bowie might be under fire for silver just behind. Sean Casto is in the mix as well. Matt Danson, though, trying to pick up his first oval win of the season.
And look at the 34. Bowie going to go way to the inside to break the draft. Silver chases. Casto and Danson don't. They stay high. No changes in the top 4. Bowie continues to control the running order. Widemaster behind in 5th, but Danson's not getting the moves he needs to get there in time.
It's going to be down to Nick Silver at this point in time. Silver decides to have a run of the race win. Looks like Brandon Bowie cut it in a lot wider for that final corner. Silver pushes up, and now Brandon Bowie going to go defensive down the inside. White flag in the air, and Nick Silver is not elected to follow.
First time tonight that Bowie's been able to maintain a gap, but look at the run to turn 1 for Silver. It's going to be just a car length and a half in the center, but Brandon Bowie's so good, he'll pull by 3 now, down to turn 2.
Sean Cass giving the bumper to his teammate, though. Nick Silver, this fight isn't over yet here. You got bump traffic coming up on Brandon Bowie. Hot here for the tunnel turn for the final time.
Looking to the inside goes Nick Silver. Different still a car length, but Bowie continues to be so good on exit. Bowie leads Silver. Casto, Danson, final corner. A look to the inside from his teammate Nick Silver. It is going to be too little too late. He'll get the run. Look to the bottom, but Brandon Bowie wins 2 in a row. Gets it done at Pocono.
Somehow fence off his teammate. Silver tried it. He tried to go for the run. Was not close enough, though. They wreck after start finish to the inside line. Matt Danson, at the end of the day, he's going to come home in 4th place. And while Jared Weimesser couldn't go for a win, plus 20 at 5th place. That ain't bad either.
In 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, the keeping it real with Bowie, Silver, and Casto. Very rare are you ever going to see a group of teammates finished 1st, 2nd, and 3rd in a SimSeats RealSimRacing Cup Series race. And you saw it on the back. Casto gave Silver the push. I mean, they weren't laying out to allow Brandon Bowie to win this race. Of course, Casto a race winner. Bowie was already a race winner ×2 coming into this one. Nick Silver was the one looking for his first win of the year. Didn't make it easy on his teammate. A little bit of a love tap as a congratulation on the way through. And Brandon Bowie has some celebrating to do. Winner last week at the Nashville Super Speedway, and now winner at Pocono. Take a look at your SimSeats full race results as the 34 burns it down on the front straightaway. Brandon Bowie gets the win in front of teammate Nick Silver, in front of teammate Sean Casto. We'll talk with all of them in just a moment. Matt Danson leads up their best of the rest in position 4. Could make the old tires work ahead of Jaron Weinmaster. Brian Chambliss, Chris Rabel, the other Keep It Real car, gets the top 10 for the top 10 for Keep It Real at Rhett McBride, David Washington, and Bradley Burke, the top 10.
In the 11th position, Grant Davis brings it home in his Flat Out Motorsports Chevrolet. Going to have a decent run for himself. Dylan Jones is going to be in 12th place, down to de Blasio 13th. Thomas George finishes in 14th place with Steve Durham in 15th place. Sean Kalis in 16th. Kyle Trudell 17th with Tom Moreno in 18th. Ross Cato and Jimmy Miller 11th to 20th.
Continuing on through the running order, Sam Nieto comes home 21st ahead of Andrew Friedage. Nieto was the last car to finish on the lead lap. Eberhardt and Stanford out of this race, so a lot of these drivers just limping it home for Matthew Barra ahead of Mariusz Leszczynski with Kuczynski, Eric de Blasio, Agna Phillip, and Michael Araya at the top 30.
And then, of course, rounding out drivers and drivers not finishing the race will be Joseph Tice, William Schmidt, and Nicholas Mara, taking out 34, 44, and 50 laps prior. Fastest lap set by none other than Bradley Burke with 53.617. What a run. What a race indeed. That was definitely a wild finish to a wild race at Pocono.
What a wild night. That's a look top to bottom at your full race results, brought to you by SimSeats. Since 2009, SimSeats has been designing and fabricating high-quality, made-in-the-USA driving simulators, including motion systems, complete turnkey iRacing packages with custom fabrication. Their customer base includes all racers from the amateur to the pro ranks, and everyone on the SimSeats team is a weekend racer too. Their passion for racing drives them to build better sim racing equipment. Join SimSeats for the thrill of racing at any time, in any car, and on any track by visiting sim-seats.com to learn more. Let's go down to SimSeats Victory Lane here at Pocono, standing by with Brandon Bowie, now a 3-time race winner in 2021. Brandon, you got us?
Yes, sir. I got you.
Well, hey, congratulations on the win. Not only is it big win number 3, but a win back-to-back. Only the second driver to do so. Friedage did it earlier this year at Kansas and Dover. You doubled up Nashville with a win here tonight at Pocono, man. What a night for the team, though. You seemed to be the dominant car early, had some challenges late, and just tell us about that second half of the race, trying to hold off cars with fresh tires and hold off your teammates.
Yeah, and I apologize. I couldn't hear you guys when you guys were trying to do the in-car interview. But yeah, that race was wild. It's just, it felt like it was pretty good, for a little bit, and then, it was just a matter of just trying to stay out and not get caught up in somebody else's stuff. But staying in front was important as well. Listen to the guys and the team, kind of talk about their, what they're going through. So it's just like, okay, if I could just stay out front, then I got a chance. And then next thing you know, I think Andrew got caught up in a wreck, he got caught up in a wreck. And then I was like, wow, okay, might have a chance now. And then Eberhardt, he came in with the fresh tires and had a huge run, at the end, but then got caught up in his wreck. So, and then the last thing was just to, worry about my teammates. We kind of all agreed on the last lap, or on the this Green-white-checkered, all bets off. We'll just go, and whoever wins. So, I hate to take a win from them guys, especially Nick or Chris, who, I know they would like to get locked in. But, if I can keep adding to it, I'm going to take it all day long.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question, right? I mean, where does that line come in? Obviously, you guys have to be happy with a 1-2-3, a 1-2-3-7, in fact. So nearly half of the top 10 go to those keep it real cars. But, in the case of your teammates, Sean's got to win. Nick is just behind Andrew in regular points. So he's seemingly pretty good for the playoffs. For you, you get an extra 3 bonus points. Does that really help you that much into the round of 16? I mean, you race it out here for points, you race it out for the wins. I mean, what's kind of the mentality as you start to rack these things up?
Honestly, I'm still learning. I did a lot of, I guess you can say, I kind of did an Andrew. I kind of been hearing about all the practice that Andrew does on a weekly basis. So, I said, well, you know what, let me try and see what that does for me. And obviously it works pretty good. But I mean, honestly, the wins are great, but because some of these races are not in the playoffs, they really don't mean anything. I guess I shouldn't say they don't mean anything, but they're just not beneficial when it comes to the playoffs. So I guess for me, it's just basically taking wins from other, other competitors that could get locked in. Some of those, there's a lot of guys that are fast. Thomas George, I know he ran up front some. I think the 03, he was up there running up front too. So for me, it's just important to keep my consistency, keep the team consistent, and hopefully we can limit the amount of really fast guys who get locked in. And then that way, I would love for 4 of us to be basically racing each other for the final 4. I don't think it's going to happen with Andrew, but, I can always dream and hope that happens.
We look forward to the next time out we go back road course racing. That may be the question mark headed forward. Your wins, Homestead, Nashville, Pocono. You can get it done at whatever oval you want. What's the road package like as we head to Road America, knowing that Watkins Glen is well not that far away?
Road America is actually one of my better tracks. I kind of look at it as a mixture of Coda and kind of Sonoma a little bit. I'm comfortable there, but let's be honest. I mean, Danson is out there, and some of the other fast road course guys are out there. So I'm not the best. I think I would probably say I'm a top 5 car. And if the win falls into my lap, I'll definitely take a 3-peat. But I think the biggest competition is going to probably be Danson, or could even be an Andrew. If I remember correctly, I think he's pretty good there as well. So, to win at Road America, it's going to take a lot. I would probably say strategy is going to probably be key, especially if you want to beat, somebody like Danson. But overall for the team, I do feel that we can, be solid there. It's going to probably take a lot of testing and practicing to get the feel that we're all looking for. But if we can get that, then yeah, it might not be a huge chance, but I think there's a chance we could get another win there.
Always in the conversation. I think that's the biggest thing for you guys, Brandon. We'll let you get out of here and chat with the rest of the team and let you guys celebrate. Before we do, though, from Victory Lane, anybody you want to say hi to?
Yeah, definitely got to say hi to the family. I got to say hi to the Keeping It Real team. Like I was saying earlier, I mean, we practiced this week, and I think that showed really in the results today. So, definitely got to give a shout out to them finishing 1, 2, 3, 7. I got to give a shout out to, Pride Month. Unfortunately, it's ending, so of course there'll be a new paint scheme that actually I will be announcing in the next couple of days. So look out for that on social media pages. Plan B sales, check them out. If you spend over $20, you KIR 2021, you get free shipping. Gotta thank you guys for putting on the broadcast, RaceSpot, Sim Seats. Yeah, that's probably forgetting somebody, and I apologize if I missed you. But that's all I can remember right now.
Got the car a lot of TV time. That's half the job. We want to appreciate you for sticking around and chatting with us, Brandon. Again, congratulations. Enjoy having you guys racing with us here on Monday nights, and we'll catch you next time out.
Thanks, Evan.
The race winner tonight for the Pocono Raceway will continue on down the line. His teammate Nick Silverdolan so close to race win number 1. Has to settle for second tonight. You're with the driver of the 3.
Indeed, I am. And well, Nick, you joined us up here, second place, so close, 76 thousandths of a second. So no doubt a very intense run to the end. So why don't you walk us through those final couple laps?
It was pretty chaotic, real reliant on the draft here. So it was super important for us as teammates to work together there at the end. It was just, Sean said he was going to push me, try to push me. I'm the only one in the top 3 there that didn't have a win. So he did a good job, and we just almost got there. Just not quite enough. I think I ended up losing a few spots. I think it was like 3rd to last restart, 4th to last restart, something like that. Ended up losing, getting freight trained and losing a bunch of spots back to 7th, and I think I really burned up my stuff coming up there. And I just didn't really have enough to get Brandon there at the end.
Well, regardless on not getting that win, you are still looking very, very secure in the playoffs at the moment. about 336 points currently sitting in there. So second place in the standings, despite not having a race win tonight. So you're still looking very good to be in your playoffs.
Yeah, and it's nice, and you always want to be pretty much close to locked in. So like I said, that's pretty nice, but it gets old after a while being a bridesmaid or getting screwed or what have you. So we just want wins from here on out. I could care what happens otherwise. So we don't really have a shot at Road America next week, but maybe Atlanta, maybe New Hampshire. We'll see what happens there.
Speaking of Road America, we of course that's the track coming up next week. It's a very good road course race when it comes to overtaking passes. You got yourself your long straights, your hard braking zones. So what's going to be the plan coming into the longest road course on the schedule?
Well, it's going to be all about practice. It's not really a track that we drive normally in the Cup cars. I've driven it maybe once before in the Xfinity cars, so really going to have to practice. And then I have the same mindset going into every road course. I know I'm not the fastest road course driver here. There's 3 guys that are going to run away with it. So I just go in looking for a consistent finish and try not to lose any position in the point standing. So as long as we can finish like top 10, that'll be like a win for me. And then move on, like I said, to Atlanta and New Hampshire. I have a couple of regular tracks and see if we got a shot to win there.
Hopefully we'll have some shot at those tracks later on, future in the season. But before I let you go here, who happens to be fast, Nick, in your number 3, keeping it real Toyota?
I got to give a shout out to Circle B Diecast, Sim Seats, everyone there for allowing us to put on this great series, Evan, and all the guys at RSR that get this league going. You guys at RaceSpot TV for putting on a good show as usual. All my boys at Keeping It Real, like I said, great team, great group of guys there, work well together. And then gotta give a shout out to Elwood Designs for this awesome rainbow scheme. This was the final race in it.
Thank you, Nick, for taking the time to join us here at the Pocono Raceway. Best of luck next week at Road America.
Thank you, guys.
That was your second place finisher, the Keeping It Real driver of Nick Silver to bring it home with the second position. Just one more driver to come on over and give us a chat here tonight. Gonna move on down to the third driver on the podium, Sean Casto. You join us up in the box. What a race, and indeed what a finish for you guys.
Heck yeah, we tell you what, Keeping It Real, we're seem to be tough to beat whenever we can all work together. I was trying to give Nick a shot at Brandon there at the end, see if we can kind of get us all a win there. But still a great result. 1, 2, 3 is nothing to be upset about.
Well, we look over throughout the course of the race, and Keeping It Real, we're of course looking a bit split up over the grid, and they ended up right in the mix of each other right at the end of that race to finish 1, 2, and 3. So what was the strategy all race long for you guys?
For sure, also want to give a shout out to Chris. He finished 7th. Absolute fantastic result for him. Strategy was just stay up front. The draft was a obvious key. These big ass spoilers, there's not much else you can do but just keep it planning, keep it in line. Brandon had probably the best car. I think if it was a we'll call it a real race, real package, he and Andrew probably would have waxed us, as they said, but instead it was follow the leader, bide your time, control the restarts. I think we all three, Nick, Brandon, and I, we did our best to try to make sure we were in control for that. And when it was time to go, Brandon did what he was supposed to. And like I said, but yeah, it was a great, just an overall pretty tough race just to try to manage to stay in front of where you're supposed to.
Next week, the 4-mile road course over at Elkhart Lake, Road America. Some people love it, some people not so much. What's your thought on it?
I plan on being quite as lost as I was at Circuit Americas. I don't think I'll be in Matt Danson's way probably too much, but yeah, we're sitting there looking at the next week after that already. Brandon's probably gonna be stout. Nick's pretty shoey there, and I'm gonna put in work. But yeah, it's the road courses. At this point, I'm only really focused on the road course in the chase, and but it's on the schedule. We'll pay it attention.
And then, well, before we let you go here, Sean, first of all, would like to thank you again for coming over and joining us here tonight. Anybody like to shout out for us?
for sure, I'd like to thank the entire team, Keeping It Real. Keeping It Real Esports. You can find us on Twitter and hopefully all over. We got Noah Talks NASCAR, a little podcast going on. You can find him on YouTube. Keeping It Real. If you go on to Circle B Diecast, you certainly get the Keeping It Real. I think 2021 code gets you a little bit of a discount there at checkout. Of course, we got the last race. We snuck it in for the Love is Love. Go out and get you some love, and I guess we'll see you in Elkhart.
Thank you, Sean, for taking the time to join us here tonight into the broadcast booth. Congratulations on a third place finish. Best of luck next week.
Thank you, guys. Also, shout out to RaceSpot. We have sim seats all over the platform there. You all are top shelf. Appreciate you, boys.
And well, Evan, that will just about do it then for your podium finishers. Sean Castillo just making his departure. What a race indeed.
It was a wild one. We had those messy moments, but we had a lot of good racing. Some of the best stuff we've seen up front all year in that battle for the lead inside of 20 laps to go. And then a little bit of team domination, late drama. Eberhard takes out Trudell, drops out, and he was probably the biggest threat for the race win. And then the Keeping It Real cars 1, 2, 3, not really working with each other, but against each other late, as Brandon DeBowie now moves up to second in the points with his third win of the season. So no new race winners means no change at the front of the field. However, the struggles with Daniel Eberhard are going to continue to be the story for him. Interestingly enough, he drops out of this race, finishes down in 23rd, Nolan. He actually gains a spot in the points, goes up to 27th. Because Liam Sheen and Trevor Trago did not race. He passes both of them. How big this night could have been for him. Again, his goal is still the top 25. But look at the right-hand side of your screen. It was tight coming into tonight. Look at McBride, only 3 points ahead of Burke, only 8 points ahead of George. Cato, de Blasio in the mix as well. It is razor thin with now 6 races left to go until we go playoff racing. And of course, we previewed it. It's a road course race at Road America for the first time ever in the Cup Series next Monday.
And what a great road course indeed. Of course, we've seen the Xfinity Series go there in the real world, and I think they have proven that that is a road course that should be on the Cup Series schedule. It is such a fantastic place. You have long straightaways, you have very hard braking zones, you have 90-degree left-handers, you got a lot of flowing sections as well. It's one of my favorite road courses that you can find in the world, and I cannot wait to see what these guys are going to be able to make for us here at that race.
The big racetrack next week out, of course, followed by Atlanta, followed by New Hampshire, and then the last break these drivers will have. We'll have the last 2 rounds of the RealSimRacing IROC series powered by iRaps, and then we're back. Michigan, Daytona, and 10 weeks in a row for the playoffs to crown our 2021 Series champion. Until then, though, that is it for us here tonight from Pocono. So on behalf of the entire team that makes RSR happen, our crew at RaceSpot TV, and for your broadcast crew tonight. For our producer downstairs, Hugo Luis, for Nolan Rempel up in the broadcast booth alongside of myself, Evan Pasoko. I want to thank you for tuning in and congratulate Brandon DeBowie. He goes back-to-back here tonight from Pocono. We're back in 1 week's time. Next round is Monday, July the 5th from Road America. That race and every race of the 2021 SimSeats RealSimRacing Cup Series can be found exclusively here on RaceSpot TV. Till next time, good night from Long Pond.